I've wanted to be a doctor since I was 5 years old. Back then, my patients were teddy bears lined neatly on my bed, their fabric limbs taped with Hello Kitty band-aids. My stethoscope was plastic and pink. I called it Dr. Heart. At the time, I thought the only thing standing between me and becoming a doctor was learning how to spell sphygmomanometer. By the time I turned 22, I had learned to pronounce it, spell it, and use one. I was in my senior year at Northeastern University, running on caffeine, ambition, and a color-coded planner that dictated every minute of my life. Between lectures, tutoring chemistry, pulling shifts at the library help desk, and volunteering at the student health clinic, I barely had time to breathe, but I was inching closer to my goal with every exhausted step. Thanksgiving that year came late. The trees in our suburban Massachusetts neighborhood had already shed most of their leaves, and frost clung to the car windshields like brittle lace. I arrived at my parents' house clutching a store-bought pumpkin pie and a tote bag full of biochemistry flashcards. My mother, Donna, greeted me at the door with a kiss on the cheek and a whisper about how tired I looked. My father, Mark, was already in the living room watching a football game, holding a beer like it was glued to his palm. "Logan's upstairs setting up his art display," she said, half laughing. "He's turning the dining room into a gallery." Of course he was. Logan, my younger brother by 3 years, had discovered his talent for watercolor in middle school. By high school, his abstract landscapes were winning small-town competitions and earning reposts from semi-famous Instagram art curators. He was charismatic, effortlessly likable, and had that unteachable aura of being meant for more. While I spent summers buried in textbooks, Logan traveled to upstate art camps and somehow returned with both a certificate and a girlfriend. Dinner was loud. Turkey, mashed potatoes, and my mom's too-sweet cranberry sauce. The table was crowded with ceramic angel figurines that hadn't been moved to make space. Grandpa Harold sat at the end, buttering his roll with the same precision he once used in surgery. He had retired from Yale's medical faculty 10 years ago and now mostly read medical journals and grew tomatoes. He didn't say much unless you gave him a reason. I tried to tell my parents about my capstone presentation, a comparative study on opioid prescriptions across socioeconomic lines. My dad nodded without looking up from his phone. "Sounds important." Meanwhile, Logan pulled out his sketch pad and held up a half-finished charcoal portrait of a woman's face, weeping roses. "Just something I scribbled in class," he said. My mom gasped like it was the Sistine Chapel. My dad raised his beer and toasted. "Now that's what I call real creativity." I didn't say anything. I just smiled and passed the gravy. Later that evening, my dad called me into his study. It smelled like old wood and printer toner. He handed me a folded piece of paper, details of a joint savings account. "Medical school's not cheap," he said. "We can contribute, but we want you to learn financial responsibility. You'll deposit what you earn from your jobs. We'll add what we can. But no nonsense, no online shopping sprees." I nodded, biting my tongue. Logan had never been asked to do this. He was still living at home, working part-time at an art supply store and taking community college classes on and off. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. It wasn't the warmth I craved, but it was something. As I got up to leave, Grandpa Harold caught me by the hallway. Without a word, he handed me a wrapped parcel. Inside was a well-worn, annotated copy of Gray's Anatomy. His name was etched in the inside cover. Beneath it, a small note in his tight, slanted handwriting. "Keep going." That night, Logan announced that his latest Instagram post had gained over 1,000 likes in 2 hours. "Must be something in the shading," he said, shrugging. My parents clinked glasses and toasted again. I stared at my cranberry-stained plate, feeling smaller than ever. 2 weeks later, I received my MCT score, 98th percentile. I called home. My mom said, "That's great, honey." The same tone she used when I told her the laundry machine at school was broken. I emailed Grandpa instead. He didn't reply, but 2 days later, a postcard arrived with just 5 words. Knew you could. H! I stood by my tiny apartment window that night, looking down at the dark street, lit only by a flickering street lamp and a Domino's sign. I was cold. I was tired. I was on my own. But I wasn't done. "I'll make it," I whispered, gripping the windowsill like a promise. With or without their applause. The email came in just after 10 p.m. on a Thursday night in March. I was sitting cross-legged on the old futon in my studio apartment, a mug of cold peppermint tea forgotten beside me, half watching a rerun of Jeopardy! When my phone vibrated with a notification from Harvard Medical School. I stared at it for a solid minute before opening it. "Dear Miss Carter, congratulations." My hands shook. I read it once, twice, a third time. Then I dropped the phone and covered my mouth with both hands. The tears came quick and hot, relief, disbelief, pride, exhaustion all tangled into one silent outpouring. Harvard. I'd made it. Every sleepless night, every campus job, every time I'd bitten my tongue at home, it had led here. I didn't even think. I dialed home. Straight to voicemail. I tried my mom's number. Then my dad's. Nothing. Jennifer peeked out from the bathroom, toothbrush in hand, hair tied up in a bun. "Everything okay?" I laughed, the kind of laugh that comes out halfway between a sob and a whisper. I got in. She dropped her toothbrush into the sink. "Oh my God, Harvard?" I nodded, and she let out a squeal, running to hug me, foam still at the corners of her mouth. "You did it. You really did it." We jumped in a tiny circle like kids on a playground, the kitchen timer still ticking from a forgotten frozen pizza. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept rereading the acceptance letter like it might disappear if I blinked too long. The next morning, still no call from my parents. At 10:13 a.m., I got a text from my mom. "Can we do dinner this weekend? Maybe Saturday?" No exclamation points. No phone call. No congratulations. Just a dinner invitation. Saturday came, and with it, the family dinner I hadn't realized I'd been dreading. My parents' house looked the same, but I didn't feel the same walking into it. The smell of rosemary chicken wafted from the kitchen, and soft jazz played from the living room speaker. Logan was already there, sitting on the couch, scrolling on his phone. He looked tired, thinner than I remembered. The sparkle he usually wore like a second skin seemed dimmer. He looked up and offered a lopsided smile. "Hey, Hey," I said, unsure whether to hug him or wave. We settled on a half-shoulder bump. Dinner was served on the good china. My mother had even ironed the napkins. As we began eating, my dad clinked his wine glass lightly. "Logan has news." Logan set down his fork with theatrical pause. "I've been accepted to École des Beaux-Arts in Paris. Partial scholarship. Starts in the fall." Mom beamed. "Isn't that incredible? A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." "That's amazing," I said, forcing a smile. "Congrats." They dove into questions about the art school, living arrangements, visa paperwork. I sat quietly, nibbling at asparagus that tasted like nothing. Eventually, I cleared my throat. "Well, I have some news too." They turned, mid-chew. "I got into Harvard Medical School." A pause. Then Mom smiled gently. "That's great, honey." My father nodded. Well done. You'll figure it out, you always do. That was it. No follow-up questions. No champagne. No framed print of the acceptance email for the fridge like they did when Logan got into a summer art program in Vermont. Logan glanced at me, then back at his plate. After dinner, I helped clear dishes. While rinsing a casserole pan, I remembered the joint account Dad had opened with me back in 2018. Hey, I tried logging into the savings account last week, I said, as casually as I could manage. It says the password was changed? Oh, right, Dad said, drying his hands. We updated all our logins recently. Security reasons. Can you send me the new one? I'll text it to you tomorrow, he replied, without looking up. I drove home with the radio off. Jennifer was out for the evening, so the apartment was quiet when I returned. I sat on my futon in the dark, the glow of my laptop the only light. I had wanted so badly for them to be proud. Just a little. Just enough. The next morning, I checked my phone. No text. I waited until noon, then sent a follow-up. Me, hey Dad, just a reminder about the account password. No response. That afternoon, I tried again. Still nothing. I called once, twice. Voicemail. On Sunday, I called my mom. She answered, but sounded distracted. Hey, sweetheart. Sorry, I'm in the middle of something. Can I call you back? Sure, I said. Can you just tell Dad to send the password? I think he's busy today, she said vaguely. I'll remind him. She didn't call back. By Monday, something inside me had shifted. Logan posted a photo on Instagram, a black and white shot of a cobblestone street with the caption, Paris soon. The comments were full of congratulations and heart emojis. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open and a legal pad beside me. I started a spreadsheet, tuition, living expenses, textbook costs, meal plans. Then I looked at the number in my head, the savings account balance that I had watched grow over 4 years. I had been so careful, so disciplined. But as I stared at the first empty cell, a chill settled into my chest. Somewhere, deep in my gut, I already knew. I wasn't going to need this spreadsheet. The bank manager blinked twice, as if double-checking what she'd just seen on the screen. Then she folded her hands and said gently, "Would you mind stepping into my office, Ms. Carter?" My stomach turned cold. I followed her past the glass divider, past rows of humming computers and hushed conversations, into a small office that smelled like laminate and lemon wipes. She gestured toward a chair. I sat down, clutching my tote bag like it might keep me upright. She turned her screen slightly so I could see it. This is the transaction record for the joint savings account ending in 9312, correct? I nodded. Yes, that's the account I've been using since college. I haven't been able to log in since spring. I thought it was a password issue. She scrolled gently. 3 days ago, there was a withdrawal. $87,000 even. My breath caught. The current balance is $42.17. I didn't speak. She went on, kindly but firmly. According to our records, the withdrawal was initiated in person by both primary account holders, Mr. Mark Carter and Mrs. Donna Carter. I felt my heart rate spike. My father and mother. They had emptied it. My savings, every hospital shift, every tutoring hour, every scraped-together paycheck, I had sent into that account for 4 years. They didn't need my permission? I asked, though I already knew the answer. It's a joint account, she said, gently. They had full access. I nodded, dazed. Would you like to print a record of the transaction? She offered. No, I said, standing slowly. I know where I'm going next. I drove straight to my parents' house. The The sky was gray, and the rain was falling in lazy drops that blurred the windshield. I didn't call. I didn't knock. Their cars were in the driveway. The porch light flickered faintly in the mid-afternoon gloom. I pushed the door open. They were all in the kitchen, my father at the table, reading the Boston Globe. My mother standing by the stove, stirring a pot of soup. Logan sitting on a stool, scrolling his phone, a half-eaten sandwich on a plate beside him. They looked up in unison, like a scene from a play I wasn't invited to. "What did you do?" I said, my voice low but shaking. $87,000. Gone. My father calmly folded the newspaper. "Emily, we were going to talk to you." "When?" I snapped. "After you spent the last $42 too?" My mother moved toward me, hands up like she was soothing a stray animal. "Sweetheart, we understand this is upsetting." "Upsetting?" I laughed, short and bitter. "You stole my entire medical school fund." "You always use such dramatic language," my father said with a tired sigh. "We didn't steal anything. It was a joint account. And frankly, we did what we thought was best." "For who?" "For Logan," he said, without blinking. "Paris is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." Logan didn't look up from his phone. "You're saying my 4 years of work didn't matter?" I asked. "You're incredibly capable, Emily," my mother said quickly. "You'll land on your feet." "You always do," Dad echoed, as if that was comfort. My mouth went dry. "So I get punished for being capable?" My father's voice grew cold. "You've always been too emotional. We weren't sure you had the temperament for medicine." I stared at him, stunned. "Too emotional? After everything I've sacrificed?" He stood, now towering over me. "Medicine is about clarity. Precision. You crumble the second something doesn't go your way." I turned to Logan, hoping, absurdly, for something human. He shrugged. "Look, I didn't ask for the money. Mom and Dad thought it was the right call. I wasn't about to say no." His sandwich sat uneaten. His eyes were dull. There were bags under them that hadn't been there in March. "I hope the wine in Montmartre is worth it," I said, my voice breaking. "Because what you took from me, you don't get to give back." "I'm sorry you feel that way," my mother said softly. That was it. I walked out. It wasn't a dramatic exit. There was no slamming of doors. Just the quiet pull of gravity toward something that hurt less. Jennifer opened her apartment door before I even knocked twice. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. I didn't cry at first. I just stood there, arms limp at my sides. Then the words came. They used it all. For Logan. Every cent, $87,000. She didn't ask questions. She just led me inside, handed me a blanket, and set a mug of tea in my hands. Over the next few days, I fell apart quietly. I didn't leave her couch. I didn't eat more than a few crackers. I didn't shower. Jennifer didn't push me. She just let me unravel. Logan posted a photo from Paris on Instagram, cafe table, sketchbook open to a moody drawing of a rainy street. Champagne glass half full in the frame. The caption, "Finding myself." I closed the app and set my phone face down. That night, lying in the dark, I whispered, "It's over. I can't do this anymore." Jennifer didn't say anything. She just tucked the blanket tighter around me and sat on the edge of the couch, her presence enough. The next afternoon, there was a knock at the door. Jennifer went to answer. She opened it slowly, then turned back to me, eyebrows raised. "It's your grandpa," she said, stepping aside. I sat up, blinking. Harold Carter stood in the doorway, rain clinging to the shoulders of his jacket. In his hand, he held a manila envelope. He didn't speak. He just looked at me the way only he ever had. Like I was still worth something. Pack your bag, Grandpa said. He stood in Jennifer's doorway, rain-soaked and solid like a tree that refused to bend, manila envelope still in hand. You have a meeting tomorrow with someone who still believes in you. Jennifer looked between us. Should I be worried this is some kind of Carter family intervention? Grandpa didn't smile. It's something better. He took me to his townhouse outside Boston. A small, two-bedroom space with worn hardwood floors and more medical books than furniture. The walls smelled faintly of lemon oil and pipe tobacco, though he hadn't smoked in years. I took a hot shower and sat at his kitchen table in borrowed sweatpants. He placed a mug of chamomile tea in front of me, then laid the envelope on the table. Inside were 3 documents: an old letter of recommendation from a colleague at Yale, a copy of my MCT score, and a printed email thread titled, Re, Carter Granddaughter, Potential Candidate. I looked up at him. I've been keeping an eye on things, he said. From the sidelines, mostly. But I knew your parents would fumble it. I just hoped they wouldn't fumble this badly. My throat tightened. Why didn't you say anything sooner? Because you needed to prove to yourself that you wanted this badly enough. And now that you have, you need help. I can give you some. He sipped his tea. Abigail Collins is the dean of Harvard Med. We overlapped on a few research panels years back. She's sharp, not sentimental, but fair. I'm not ready, I whispered. I've barely slept. I haven't touched a textbook in weeks. He leaned back. Medicine doesn't wait for ideal conditions. Neither does life. I didn't argue. I didn't have the strength. The next morning, we drove into the city. Late August sun filtered through the windshield, casting long slashes of light across Grandpa's dashboard, where a tiny wooden caduceus hung from the rearview mirror. I read Gray's Anatomy because of you, I said softly. He smiled, eyes still on the road. You're the only Carter who reads anatomy for fun. Even at 10, I knew. The Harvard Medical School administrative building was tall and austere. Grandpa didn't walk me in. She wants to see you, not us, he said. Remember that. I stepped inside, palms sweaty, heart thudding. The secretary at the front desk gave a small nod and gestured toward the corner office. Dean Abigail Collins stood to greet me. She was in her early 60s, tall, with silver hair cropped close and sharp eyes that reminded me of a hawk sizing up prey. No nonsense, no warm small talk. Emily, she said, extending a hand. Your grandfather speaks highly of you, but your record speaks louder. I managed a faint smile. Thank you for meeting with me. She motioned to the chair. He told me what happened, but I'd like to hear it from you. So I told her. Not the dramatized version, just the plain truth. About the savings account. The withdrawal. The silence. The Paris tuition. My father's words. My own doubts. The spreadsheet I never filled. Dean Collins didn't interrupt. She just listened, pen tapping lightly against a closed folder on her desk. When I finished, she nodded once. Family complications are unfortunately common, she said. They don't define capability. She opened the folder. Your academic record is excellent. Letters of recommendation, strong. Volunteer hours impressive. But I don't offer rescue. I offer rigor. I sat straighter. I run a research lab focused on cardiovascular regeneration. It's demanding. Long hours, tight protocols. We have an assistantship opening. Comes with a stipend and subsidized housing. My breath caught. Why me? Because your grandfather vouched for your resilience, she said. And your record confirms it. She paused, then added, this won't be easy. You'll need to catch up. But you've already done the hard part, surviving. I swallowed. I'll do it. I won't let you down. Her gaze held mine. Then show me you were worth saving. Outside, the sun had burned through the morning clouds. Grandpa stood by the car, leaning on his cane. I climbed in beside him, silence stretching comfortably between us as we drove. He didn't ask how it went. He didn't need to. That evening, he dropped me off at a small sublet near campus, a one-room walk-up with creaky pipes and beige walls. The mattress was thin, the fridge humming, the place already sticky with late summer heat. But it was mine, earned, unfiltered. Grandpa stood in the doorway before leaving. "This is your second beginning," he said. "Don't waste it." And for the first time in weeks, I believed I wouldn't. I didn't rise out of spite. Not really. At first, sure, it helped. It got me through those early mornings when my eyes still burned from crying the night before, and my feet stuck to the cheap vinyl tiles of my studio floor. It got me through the first quiz I bombed, the first time I couldn't answer a cold call question in class, the first time I spilled espresso on my only clean lab coat. But spite is like caffeine, sharp, fast, and gone too soon. What kept me going was something slower, quieter. Purpose. It came in pieces, like shy light through thick curtains. Harvard in the fall looked like a dream someone else had lived. The red brick buildings, the gusts of leaves swirling across the quad, the echo of hurried footsteps in long marble corridors. It was beautiful and relentless. So was the schedule. I spent most mornings in lecture halls, afternoons brewing coffee at a campus cafe that smelled like burnt beans and ambition, and evenings in Dr. Collins's lab, trying not to drop glass pipettes while double-checking cell growth patterns. My roommates became my textbooks. My best friend was a centrifuge. Meals were frozen burritos eaten over lab notes, and my phone background was a countdown to exam week. But somehow I wasn't drowning. I was moving. By November, I had contributed a minor modification to the lab's cardiac stem cell protocol, a tweak in the nutrient cycle that doubled cell survival rates. Collins noticed. She didn't praise me, not exactly. But she started giving me more complex tasks. Trusted me to run small batches. Asked my opinion, occasionally. That was worth more than any applause. Around that time, Amelia entered my orbit. She was a second year, whip-smart with the posture of a ballet dancer and a laugh that cracked like firewood. "I see you here every night," she said once, handing me a spare granola bar. "You know you're allowed to go home, right?" I smiled weakly. "Home is a cot under my desk now." She didn't flinch. "We're starting a women in medicine support group. Thursday nights. Come for the cheap pizza. Stay for the tears." I went. And then I kept going. We weren't a big group, 6, sometimes 8 women who sat in a mismatched circle and talked about imposter syndrome, missing holidays, being interrupted by male residents, and wondering if we'd chosen the right lives. It was messy. It was honest. It was mine. Somewhere in January, Dean Collins handed me a draft email. "It's a proposal," she said, her voice steady, "for the American Cardiac Association Symposium in spring." I read the subject line, "Preliminary Submission, E. Carter et al." My name. First. I blinked. "You're submitting my work?" She tilted her head. "Is there someone else in the room who altered a core methodology in my lab?" I stammered. "I thought it was just a lab note. A suggestion." "You thought wrong," she said. Then, softer, "That's what discovery often looks like. Quiet and unnoticed until it works." I pressed the edges of the paper, as if that would anchor me. She added, assuming acceptance, "You'll present the findings at the Harvard Spring Gala." I almost dropped the paper. Present? At the gala? My pulse spiked. But she gave me that look again, the one that said, "Yes, I believe in you. But you'd better prove me right." So I nodded. Okay. That same week, I got an email from my mother. It had no subject line. "Emily, Logan is struggling. Paris isn't what we thought. He's been asked to take a leave. Please don't share this with anyone. We're trying to help him sort things out. Hope you're doing well. Love, Mom." I stared at it for a long time. I didn't reply. It was mid-March when things finally started to feel like mine. Not perfect. Not finished. But mine. I had a group chat with Amelia and 2 other students titled, "We Will Not Cry Before 8 a.m." I started sleeping 6 hours a night, which felt like luxury. I got a new pair of sneakers with actual arch support. I bought a tiny succulent for my windowsill. I even let Jennifer talk me into a Zoom game night once a month. And when I walked through the labs now, people knew my name. One rainy Thursday, Amelia and I ducked into a corner coffee shop off Tremont, our backpacks soaked and cheeks wind-chapped. She handed me a toasted bagel and said, "You know what's wild? You're the most resilient person I know." I laughed. "You need to meet more people." "No," she said. "Seriously, you were crumbling. And now you're building." I didn't know what to say. So I just smiled. Quietly, gratefully. Later that night, I checked my email before bed. One new message. Subject, Carter Family, Gala Attendance Request. From d.carter@comcast.net. I didn't open it right away. I just stared at the line. Because I already knew what it meant. They emptied my bank account. Now they wanted to attend the party I paid for in sweat and lost sleep. The Harvard Medical School Spring Gala was a blur of chandeliers, tuxedos, and softly clinking glassware. Waiters in white gloves floated between clusters of donors, alumni, and students. The reception hall shimmered with soft gold light, polished marble, and that faint hum of academic prestige. I wore a navy dress that Amelia helped me pick out, simple, tailored, with just enough structure to remind me I belonged in it. My badge read Emily Carter, presenter, and every time I glanced down at it, I had to steady my breath. "This is your moment," Amelia whispered. "Don't shrink from it." I nodded, trying not to look across the room. But I'd seen them. My parents. Logan. Standing near the back, slightly apart, dressed like they were attending a wedding they weren't invited to. They hadn't reached out again after the email. No phone call. No explanation. But tonight they came. Dean Collins stood near the podium, skimming her notes. When she caught my eye, she gave the slightest nod. Formal as ever, but with a flicker of warmth beneath her professional veneer. Beside her stood Grandpa Harold, beaming, proud, wearing a gray suit that didn't quite fit at the shoulders, but made him look 10 years younger. I stepped onto the stage. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't waver. I spoke of cardiac regeneration, of stem cell viability, of the method I'd refined during those long nights and silent mornings. I shared images from our lab, outlined early clinical potential, quoted 3 journals, and closed with a quiet statement about why this work mattered, not just to medicine, but to people like me. People who were told they couldn't. The applause began slowly, then rose. A few stood. Then more. Dean Collins took the mic next. "Tonight," she said, "we honor not only innovation but resilience. There are students who arrive at this institution with every door open for them. And then there are students who build the door themselves." She paused. "The Harold Carter Resilience Fellowship," she announced, "is a new initiative established this year to support students who face extraordinary obstacles in their pursuit of medical education. It is retroactive, fully funding the education of one student whose story exemplifies courage, excellence, and perseverance. She turned to me. "Emily Carter, please accept this fellowship." Gasps rippled through the room. Someone near the front began to clap again. I stood frozen, heart thudding. Grandpa clapped the loudest. As I stepped forward to receive the certificate, I looked toward the back of the room. My father's jaw was tight. My mother's hands trembled, clasped around a cocktail napkin. Logan stared down at his shoes. And I felt steady. After the program ended, the crowd began to mill again, gathering around the dessert tables and wine bars. I answered a few questions from curious alumni, posed for a photo with Dean Collins, and snuck 2 mini cheesecakes onto a napkin for later. Then I saw them coming. My mother reached me first. Her eyes were red. She began, but her voice cracked. "We were wrong, Emily. We didn't see it. I didn't see you. And I'm so sorry." My father stepped forward. "I brought this," he said, holding out an envelope, "to start repaying what we took. With interest." I didn't reach for it. Logan looked thinner, more serious than I'd ever seen him. "Paris was not what I expected," he said quietly. "I failed most of my studio reviews. I'm back home now, working at the community center, teaching kids art." He hesitated. "I was awful to you. I know that now. And I'm sorry." I took a breath. "Let it linger." "I forgive you," I said. "But I don't need you anymore to believe in me." They didn't respond right away. My mother nodded slowly. My father lowered the envelope. Logan blinked quickly and shoved his hands into his pockets. I looked past them, toward the table where Amelia and Jennifer stood holding glasses of champagne and waving me over. "I have people in my life now," I added, "who show up. Not just when it's convenient." They parted to let me walk past. Amelia handed me a glass. "To earned endings," she said, raising it. I looked around. The room felt big, bright, familiar in a new way. I clinked my glass gently to hers. "No," I said, a smile tugging at the corner of my lips. "To new beginnings." I stood in that ballroom, not as the girl they once underestimated, but as the woman I had become, steadier, wiser, and no longer needing their permission to shine. Sometimes, the people who are supposed to lift us up are the very ones we must rise beyond. But healing isn't about proving them wrong. It's about learning to stand strong in our own truth. In life, we don't always get the family we hoped for, but we can choose the community that helps us grow. And often, the quietest resilience leads to the loudest triumph. If this story touched something in you, I invite you to share your thoughts, or simply reflect on who helped you find your footing when things fell apart.